Alright, folks, hope you're doing well this week. It's week 9, and we will be going over master pages today. I figured after taking a midterm exam, we'll slow it down just a little bit. Next week, you'll have your program to do. Your capstone assignment will be capstone project will be assigned on the 6th or the week of the 6th of April, and you'll have until the last day of class. Tuesday, essentially Tuesday, May 5th, to turn in your capstone project. I will be grading your midterms very soon. I was sick last weekend, quite sick, so I'm running a little behind on my grading, but I did get your project 2 graded, or 1 graded, and number 2, since it's due next week. Well, technically, I guess if you're looking at this on Monday, it's due next week. You've got a couple weeks from actually today because I'm recording this a little bit early. So once that's due, on April the 3rd, you'll have a little bit of a rest period to kind of review the material. And then we'll go over Intro to Database Programming, SQL data sources, etc. And then a couple weeks after that, and then we'll have Instructor's Choice topics the last couple weeks. So if you have any specific topics maybe that you think would be good for the Instructor's Choice topics, just feel free to email me. I don't have anything set in stone that I'd like to discuss, so just let me know, and I will try to work something in or provide some materials of some sort. So this week we're on Chapter 9, How to Use Master Pages. So I've downloaded the EX09 cart application from the website Desire to Learn. And the first thing we need to look at is this shopping cart application right here. This shows how to use a master page and then a content page. So the master page is primarily used because a lot of times a lot of pages have many different things that are in common. For instance, master pages might have the same header, navigation menus, footers, etc. So you have the same header here that you would use on multiple pages, and also the navigation menu. So why should we have to keep copying and pasting the code or redoing the code or anything like that when you can just use a master page? So you have the master page, then in the master page you have a content placeholder here, and then you put whatever the specific content is for this page, say order.aspx, into that content placeholder. This is what the rendered master and content page will look like for the order page. So you've got the master page providing, for example, the header here, Halloween Superstore, in the navigation menu, but then the content page is loaded here. So it's basically two pages making up the same page, which is rendered as order.aspx. So this is just showing it in design view. If we go to the site master, which maybe we could take a look at it real quick here. If I put it in design view, you notice that it has things like this footer right down here at the bottom, and you've got this label right here and the header up here as well. So this is the stuff for the site master. Different content placeholders. We can look at the source and we can see different content placeholders. So like this right here. You can see a content placeholder right here for the footer. You can see one right in here for the form as well. So there'll be multiple content placeholders under different circumstances. The starting code for the master page, when you create one, is you've got a content placeholder for the head, and then maybe a content placeholder inside. So that might be the two that you end up with at the very beginning. To add a master page to a project, you just have to right-click the project name in Solution Explorer and then go to Add Master Page. So I would go to the project EX01 cart, go to Add, and then I would go to Add New Item, and then you can select Master Page right here and then give it a name. Okay, so it's a .master, you'll notice, not .aspx, so it does have a different purpose. So also you want to make sure that you're on the you want to make sure you're under the right language as well. So I think that was showing it under Visual Basic, but you'd want to make sure it was under the correct type of code. All right. So sometimes you'll end up with a situation where if you put a content placeholder inside of a container, you'll end up with a bunch of garbled mess on the page, and sometimes this has to do with what's called the client ID mode. The client ID mode is covered. I can find it. One second. I had it a second ago. Now I lost it. Okay, the client ID mode is on page 300. So page 300, the client ID is how ASP.NET creates the client ID. That's the ID attribute that ASP.NET assigns to a specific HTML element. So when it renders it, you get specific HTML elements with ID attributes. So normally you might have CSS, for example, that expects an object named DDL products. So that could be the drop-down list right here. But what ASP would do, sorry, there's our friend again. What ASP would do is that it will generate something called, it'll say the name of the container, like the form, for example, form placeholder underscore, and then the name DDL product. So it'll generate that, but your CSS expects it to be called just DDL product. So that, that's why the CSS is messed up. So I would direct you to page 300 and 301 to show you the different things about the different client modes. So predictable is one of them. That's the default. The client ID is the name of the parent container added to the name of the server control. So you want to make sure your CSS reflects that, or you can change it. So you could make the if you're starting a fresh site, it's recommended you keep with the predictable client ID mode. But if you are maybe transferring several over that were not using a master page previously, maybe you want to make it static. So the client ID is the same as the server control ID. So whatever you make it in the server control, that'll be the client. But that can cause some conflicts, such as when there are several instances of the same user control on a page, for example. So you've got to be a little bit cautious when doing that. So this just shows the different, when it's predictable, this is what it looks like. When it's static, it looks like this, and then there's an auto ID, and then there's also inherit as well. Okay, then they show you regular content pages. There are different ways to create content pages. You could right-click on the master page in Solution Explorer, then choose Add Content Page. To convert a regular page to a content page, you just add a master page file attribute to a page directive of any regular old page. So you go to Add New File, or Add New Item rather. Add New Item, and then you just choose a regular old web form, but then you have to add the master page file attribute to it. So for example, order.aspx right here uses the site master. Okay, so you have master page file attribute at the very top. It uses site.master. So it's pulling as its master this site master. So this one's going to have all the regular code in it, except it has content placeholders, and then order specifically, or cart, or what have you, will fill in the details. So you have a content that fills in for the form placeholder, content placeholder ID. So form placeholder right here in the master page is just a content placeholder, but in the order you're actually providing what content you want in there. So you give it an ID, and then you say what content placeholder are you filling in for in the master. So the next thing, then they show you the order page and the master page's default content in the footer. Notice that when you have a footer, for example, in a particular things such as order, if you want to override the behavior of the master page, you can always go to this little smart tag over here. This little thing looks like an arrow. Click it and then go to create custom content, and then that will let you modify this, and it'll be different than the master page. So another thing to keep in mind. The reference to that is there we go, 303, 30. Yeah, 304 to 307. 307 has specific information about how to override and change the content. So I would go to that if you need a reference. To set the default title on a master page, you can enter content for the title element. To override the default title in a content page, you use the title attribute of the page directive. So inside of one of these, like the order.aspx, if I want the title to not pull from the title that is set here, you can override the title by putting it in here in the page directive. Just put it here and it will override whatever the master title is. If the master doesn't have anything, it'll usually be a name of a folder that it's in. So to set default content on a master page, you just add content to the placeholder control. So you have the content placeholder inside the master page, and you're putting, say, a label here. Notice this label just is called label days until Halloween. Okay, so we could take a look at that. On the site master, you've got the label days until Halloween. And if you view the code for the site master, you'll notice that as the page loads, as long as that label is not null, so it does a check here, if it hasn't been overridden. Okay, so if it actually still exists, if it's overridden in a particular page, then that won't exist, so it is null. It'll calculate the days until Halloween using this method down here. Okay, calculates the using the date time. It'll do the 31st of October, and then if today is greater than Halloween, it'll try to add a year, and then find the time span between Halloween and today. So then it'll return the number of days. So if it's 0 days until, then it's Halloween. If it's 1 day until, then tomorrow's Halloween, right? Because it's Devil's Night. It's the day before Halloween. But by default, we want it to just show in that label there are only however many days left until Halloween, and then it'll you pass it days until. So that's a pretty clever thing you can do. If you have a website that's specifically catering to a specific holiday, then that might make sense to do something like that. Okay. We already talked about the smart tag, and we talked about briefly how to override a master page's default content. You add content to the content control for the related placeholder. If you've already accepted the default content, click the smart tag and choose create custom content. So that's what I showed you earlier. There's another interesting thing you can do. If you need to allow the custom page to override specific content somewhere in the master page, then you can expose that content publicly. So here they have an ASP label named LBLH1, and then the master page offers a property. We've talked about properties before. You could use methods and other things too if you don't have access to properties or aren't comfortable with properties. You could use a method as well, but this is a property. Public string page h1 text, and notice it's just setting. It only allows you to set the lblh1.text equals value. Now you could provide get for it or whatever you want, but in this case it's allowing you to set the page h1 text. So if we look at the site master here, and we look at the property right there, there's the property, page h1 text. what is that going to change? Well, it changes LBL H1's text equal to whatever value the user passes in for that. So if we look at the view designer here, this is LBL H1. So the content page will naturally change that value. Otherwise it'll be empty, but the content page can the content pages can excuse me the content pages can change that value by using that property, and we will see that a little bit after we do an example. There's the master type directive as well. That's something to be familiar with. This is the easiest way to access the master page's public properties. You have to add a master type directive to the content page in order to just directly access them using by saying master.page h1 text. So you have to add master type virtual path here. So you have to put the master type right there in any of the pages that are going to override it. So yeah, you'd have to put master type up in here somewhere, right? So the other thing, we'll see that in action in just a second. So they show the order and the cart pages. We'll see those in action once we modify them. This is the ASPX code for the master page. We'll take a stronger look at that in just a moment. But they're showing you more information about the placeholders. This is the aside and the navs, the navigation bar that's off to the side. So we know that we're going to have navigation, and then some placeholders right here. The code behind for the master page file, we just saw the property that we're going to be able to set in the content pages, and also detecting the days until Halloween if the label does exist. In other words, if it hasn't been overridden by any of the content pages, we'll do all this calculation here. Right? Okay, so we already saw that code. This is the ASPX for the order form. I wouldn't worry about it too much. We're going to see that more extensively in just a second. But this is interesting because this is in use if you want to, in say the cart, inside code in the cart, you notice they're saying this.master.page h1. Well, since the cart source has the master, right here, has the master type virtual path set to site master, then it can directly refer to the, it can directly refer to this property right here, this public property of the master page, page h1 text. Now if you remember, that's over here on the site master. We have page h1 text. That's where that comes from. So it allows you to set that value, and then that will actually modify when the page is rendered what's in that location. So that is the natural way you're providing for the content pages to actually set values in the master pages text as it's rendered. Doesn't have to be text either, it could be some other thing as well. So then they go to an exercise, but we're going to go over this right here. This starts on page 321, and they go over a few different things. You'll notice if I run this, after you've set the default page and first convert it to IIS and then set the default page. When I have this, there's the calculator down here. How many days is it until Halloween? And then you've got the links off to the side, and then you've got the header right here, which you should notice is this is part of the master page, and then the stuff right here, which has to do with ordering, all of this stuff is provided by the order.aspx page. Okay. Notice the last two links don't work. They aren't implemented yet. So we've already seen the ASPX and the code behind and all that stuff. It says they want us to restore the default content for the footer of the cart page. So I'm going to close everything but the cart page. Oops, closed it. Closed that too. Got a little overzealous. I'm going to open up the cart page here. And it says they want you to restore the default content of the footer. So really all we have to do is we want to remove this. If we look at cart right now, let's look at it right now and then after we change it. Yeah, stop debugging. If we look at the cart right now, we view it in the browser. You'll notice there's nothing down at the bottom here. That's because we've overridden it by providing a content server control and giving it or telling it the content placeholder is the footer placeholder, and then it has nothing in it. So that means there's nothing there. Now we could provide our own content, like I just put my name there, and then oops, that's not the right page. We could do that, and if we run it in the browser, view it in the browser, you notice it'll say my name down there. So that is an override on the master file. However, if we get rid of it entirely, then whatever the master file has will be what is actually shown. So I'm going to view it now without the content placeholder, and you'll notice it says there are only 255 days left until Halloween. That's because in the master site file, we have this down here. The content placeholder's name is footer placeholder, and then inside that it has a label, and then does its calculations and such. Okay, so and again we remember that the code here says as long as this is not null. Now, since our content page had previously overridden it, then this would have been null. So that's why we check to make sure this is null, because the content page has a content. The content page order has a content server control that matched the footer, and that basically overrides it, so there's no label inside that one. So you're going to get an error if you try to run it with that. So it has to check first. So the master page checks to make sure, is that still there? Okay, so far so good. Let's look at the order.aspx file. It says we should add content to the title attribute, so it says your shopping page. So currently, if we look at it, if we view in the browser, you'll notice up here it just says Chapter 9 Shopping Cart. So that's basically just a kind of a default name. If we want to override that, we go up to the page directive at the top, and then we're going to change it to your shopping page. Okay, and then if I run it now, instead of Chapter 9, it'll say your shopping page. So now that's been overridden. We're also going to override the default content in the footer and replace it with your shopping page by using the technique on page 307. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go to the design tab. You can go to page 307 as a reference if you'd like, but you'll notice there's a smart tag right here if I'm in design view. So there's three things we're having to keep track of here, so I don't want you to get confused. There's design, the source, you could do split, but there's design and source, but there's also, we can view the code behind file. You can go to view code and view designer. There's two different things. Designer has design, split, and source. Code view just has the code. So you go to source and go to view code, it'll show you the code behind file. Alright, so I'm going to go back to the designer. I'm going to go to design view in the designer and click this little label at the bottom. This is the footer placeholder, and they want us to put your shopping page down there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this little tag here and go to create custom content. Then instead of that label there, I just want it to say your shopping page. Alright, so now instead of saying when we view this, instead of saying how long it is until Halloween as the default does, it'll just say your shopping page at the bottom. Alright, the next thing we're going to do for the order page is we'll close that for a second. I'm going to view the code behind file for the order page, and then they want us to set the H1 heading that exists in the site master right over here. We've seen it a couple times before. That's this H1 here. Its name is LBL H1. Now we don't have direct access through it through here, but if you'll recall, in the site master, we provided a public property to access it. So I'm going to close the site master, go back to the order page. Now inside the order pages code, the code behind file, in the page load. So when this order page loads, I want to set that code, or I want to set that text. So I'm going to say this.master dot page h1 text is equal to your shopping page. All right. So if I show this page now, if I view it in Internet Explorer, oops, I think I got something wrong here. Probably missed a semicolon. Let's see here. Yep, sorry, that would be an S. Okay, let's try it again. I'm going to view it in browser, and you'll notice that it now says, as the H1, it says your shopping page. So that's pretty cool. We decided instead of nothing there, we want it to actually say something. So even though this part right here, this code, this H1, exists on the master page, we're able to change the content from the content page. So again, you've got the master page, which is usually, for all the things that have something in common, but they're all going to have maybe a header one there. So maybe you want them all to be able to change to set that value custom. So that's why you provide the public property in the site master code. All right. So far, so good. I'm going to close this and that. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a checkout page. So I'm going to create a checkout page, a new content page named checkout.aspx. Now here's how I would create a content page, very carefully too. Don't get trigger happy here. I'm going to right click the properties page, go to not properties page, the project in Solution Explorer. I'm going to right click the project, go to add new item, make sure it's a web form, and again, don't click add too quickly because we're going to do something else. I'm going to call this checkout.aspx, but notice there's a little checkbox here that's been kind of haunting us ever since we started the course. Select master page. I'm going to check that so we will be able to select the master page in the next step. So once I've got that checked, I'm going to hit add. Then another dialog box pops up and says select master page. The only master page it finds is site.master, and that's what we want. So I'm going to hit OK. So it gives us this brand new page here, but notice that it has selected the, oh, you know what, I checked. It says VB. That isn't cool. That's not cool at all. I think we goofed. We don't want that. We could use VB. I mean, that's fine. But I'm going to delete that, and we're going to do it again. Yep. Checkout.aspx. So I'm going to go again, right click. I don't know why that's doing that. Okay, add new item. I'm going to make sure I'm under C#. That's another thing. Okay, and then because ASPX looks the same to me. Checkout.aspx, select master page, hit add, site master. Okay. All right. Now we're good. We're under C#. We've got site.master. And then we've got, by default, we've got the 3 content placeholders. Head placeholder, form placeholder, and footer placeholder. And that's because site master has 3 content placeholders. It's got the head placeholder, it's got the form placeholder, and it's got the footer placeholder, right? Just like we have here. So it knows there are potentially 3 placeholders that it has to provide content for. The next thing we're going to do in this content, the content control for the form, we're going to add an H1 element that displays checkout page 1. We're not going to use the exposed property to set that. We're just going to write custom in the form placeholders, the one that tells us to put it in. So I'm going to put H1, and we're going to put checkout page 1. Okay, just a regular old HTML header. We're going to put there. Also, it wants us to change the title element to say checkout page 1. So I'm going to override the default title by putting in the title attribute checkout page 1. We're going to keep default footer stuff, and I'm going to test this new page, checkout.aspx. I'm going to view it in Internet Explorer. And you'll notice not much here. It's got the navigation, and it's got the header right here. So we've got everything we have and everything else. It just has the checkout page 1 here that we're putting by default. Everything looks okay. Now, what if we want to change? What if we want to select a second master page? So in this case, I'm going to right-click the project. Go to Add New Item, and I'm going to select Master Page instead of Web Form. I'm going to double check I'm on C# this time, since we've had so much fun with that lately. And we're going to call it checkout.master. So this is going to be a checkout master page for the checkout.aspx. So we're going to uncheck select master page because this one doesn't have its own master. You can actually nest master pages, but that starts getting a little confusing after a while, so it's not recommended in most circumstances. So we've got the checkout master here. The content for this page should be the same as site.master content, but without the aside nav elements and without the H1. So I'm going to actually just copy the code from from site master, except for the top, except for the page or the master language directive. At the top, I'm going to copy all the code right from there. And again, going to skip I'm not going to paste it on top of the directive at the top. I'm just going to paste this. Okay, and it says that they want it to stay the same. Now notice this is the default title here. They're just calling it Chapter 9 Shopping Cart. The content should be the same except for the aside and nav elements. So we're going to remove the aside and the nav elements. So all this stuff gets to go away. All right, this is again our checkout master. And then the other thing they want to go away is the H1 element in the section. So I'm going to get rid of this H1 element inside of the form. Okay, much prettier. No errors, so that's good. The footer should display checkout page. So I'm going to go to Design. I'm going to click on this footer here. Oh, yeah, I guess we don't have a label here because this is a master page. So for this, I could just write checkout page. That should be right. Let me see. Yep, checkout page. Okay, so I've got checkout page there, and then I'm going to switch the checkout page to be the new master of the checkout.aspx. So I'm going to make checkout.master the master of checkout.aspx. So currently it says the master page file is site.master. I'm going to switch this so it now says checkout.master. All right. So I'm now going to run it to see what it looks like. Let's run checkout here, view in browser, and let's see what we got. So that's what we've got. There's no nav because we removed it. Oh, the footer doesn't seem to be right, does it? Checkout.master. Footer placeholder. Oh, you know what? We get rid of the placeholder. Just have it say checkout page. There we go. That should be good. Let's see. And I broke it. Great. Gotta love breaking things. Okay. We could put a label, I suppose. Let me just grab some label code over here. I'm going to grab that guy and put it over here. And now we're going to put checkout page. Let's see if that works. Still doesn't work. Okay. Just a second. Okay, I think I know what we do wrong. We're going to get rid of that placeholder inside of checkout.aspx, and then we're going to, fourth time's the charm, I think? There it goes. Okay, checkout page. So what was happening is that the checkout.aspx was actually overriding the content that we had coming from the master. So even though the master was right, so actually I could just put checkout page here. It doesn't even need a label. I should be able to just put checkout page here and then run it again, and it still should show us the same thing. There you go. So checkout page. All right, so you got checkout page here, checkout page 1 there, checkout page down at the bottom. You'll notice there's no nav, there's no extra doohickeys here, there's no special stuff happening with the H1. So that's how you create a second master page. So the master pages, you might have 2, 3, 4 different groups of pages that need different master pages. So you can definitely create different master pages. You just have to make sure that inside the content pages you actually point using the master page file attribute to the page which is its master. And then you just have to make sure you're lining up the content placeholders appropriately so that you're overriding the correct thing. So content placeholder ID, footer placeholder. This is the name of the content placeholder in the master that you are overriding. Okay. All right. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. You've got your capstone quickly approaching. Just look at the chapter and maybe take a look at the next couple chapters so you'll be prepared for the navigation and themes. And I will see you at a different time. I'll see you next week. So I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.